Hey, everybody. It has been a long time, but we are back. Welcome back to Turn Bark Time. I'm the Turn,
I'm the Bark.
and we have been here a long time. Thanks for being patient with us. Just crazy schedule all around for us. So we are dialed back in, and we are happy to say that this is season 5, episode 5. And we are so excited to talk to you about today. So I'm gonna kind of do the intro for this one. So uh over the holiday break, my wife, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law, all of us got to go on a trip to London for like a couple days, and then we went to a couple of small German towns like Schweinfurt, Germany, and got to hang out. But one of the things we did is London is known for its Christmas lights, and we were traveling around, and one of the very first like monuments, we did a bus tour, and one of the first monuments we saw was a animals at war monument. And it was this monument, two-sided, which I thought was really cool, showing like the animals that had served in the British military with all their packs and everything that they do, their hauling, all that. And then on the other side of the wall was this beautiful, like, they were free, all their burdens were gone. And like, so it was just honoring those animals that had helped Britain be successful in military endeavors, I'll say. Not to be confused with the Emu episode, which you can watch at a later date, where they were not the friends of the British Empire. So really cool, but like sculpture. But I told Barker about it. I was like, man, it's really awesome that they're honoring like animals that had helped them. It's just not something we think of. We have a lot of memorials for every, branch. We have memorials for every like kind of service, but this was cool because it was animal based.
Yeah. So I looked at it. It's fairly new. It's in Hyde Park. It hasn't been there for a long time. It's actually based off of there's a book called Animals in War written in 1983 by Jilly Cooper. Which I highly recommend. If you want to buy, you buy on Kindle because it's
Okay.
$10. If you want a paperback, it's 30.
Wow.
Or else, I mean, Jilly's rolling in the doughs. But it is a 55 by 58 curved Portland stone wall, which I don't know what Portland stone. I don't know the difference in a stone wall, so I'm not a fine connoisseur of masonry, but
Really?
I thought it was interesting that it's a Portland wall. And then there's a break in the wall, and there's 2 bronze mules, a horse, and a dog. And like Turner mentioned, like in the one side, it shows them kind of carrying the burdens of war, and on the other side, it has them running free. The numbers that they listed on their website was they estimate. I'm trying to think. In World War One, no, maybe that's not in World War One. It seems like a lot of horses. It says 8 million horses and countless mules and donkeys in World War One.
I can believe that though. Like when you think about it, like if you're talking about, because remember, I mean, obviously, like my big thing is like cars and everything are unreliable in the mud of the trenches, right? So you're gonna switch to horses, and you think of how many like people died in World War One combined, right? And you think of like all the animals that would have had to haul, like even artillery pieces, which became a huge piece. Not to be a pun.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so it lists 8 million horses. The donkeys and mules don't get a number. It just says countless.
There's too many of them.
And then I thought this was interesting. Something we don't think about. An animal we don't normally associate with military service is a pigeon.
Yes. Yes.
100,000 pigeons in World War One, and 200,000 pigeons served and did not return from service in World War II.
See, and that one blows my mind because you think of like pigeons in World War II. Like you wouldn't think about that because we're adding radio and everything like that. That one caught me off guard. Like pigeons need their credit. Probably one of the more reliable birds. What's the movie that they made? That not Valkyrie. It's they made a movie. It's animated. It's the pigeons, and the Germans are the hawks, and they're trying to kill the pigeons, and they're trying to. It's an animated war movie. Dang it. I'll look it up. You keep going.
The only thing that's coming to mind right now is Chicken Run, and that's a
it's not chicken. It is not Chicken Run,
which I think we've already covered on this channel.
We have Valiant is the name of the movie. 2005. they made a movie about that, and then the enemy are the German hawks that are attacking them.
I will add that to my queue.
Similar to Chicken Run.
Yeah, just murdering people.
Yeah, it's a solid 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, so take it with a grain of salt.
So, looking at honoring British military animals, they also in 1943 created a lady named Maria Dickin created a medal for animals serving gallantly. So it says on bronze, it says for gallantry we also serve. And so today it is awarded by the PDSA, which is the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals in Britain.
Nice.
They have awarded 75 awards. And among the honorees from 43 to 49, because they still award medals even to animals that do not serve the British. So there's a number of American dogs and animals that have won awards in addition to British military animals. So 32 of them were pigeons.
Okay.
18 were dogs.
Okay.
3 were horses.
Okay.
And 1 was a cat.
Parker, knowing you dug into the cat story. Like you had to have known.
Totally dug into that cat story.
Because you got it, right? Like it's one cat. That darn cat.
I was like, dude, what did this cat do? He's the only dude. He's the only cat there. His name is Simon. His name is Simon.
Simon the cat. Okay, I'm sold.
Simon the cat. He served on the HMS Amethyst.
Was he like killing mice?
So, the Amethyst was involved in the Yangtze River incident during the Chinese Civil War.
Okay.
So I wrote 49. I'm assuming it was probably 1849. Yeah. Trying to read my Chinese history. That's the beginning of the century. It sucked for China. They got caught upriver and got caught in a siege. And the cat sustained shrapnel injuries. They thought he was a goner. Like they essentially kind of like put him in a corner with his heavily injured little body and just kind of thought that he was going to, kick the can. Okay. But he was a scrappy little fellow and he survived those wounds and he won the award. He was honored because he had a very vital job because as they're in there, they're besieged, which means there's a lack of supplies. His job was to protect the food from the rats. Yeah. So, the only cat, and I think there's actually a Time Magazine article about it. And if we had done this episode when we originally intended, I would have remembered more about it, but it's been a minute.
So I dug into it really quick. Just a quick overview. You were right when you originally said 49, not 18, right? This happened in November. He died November 28th, 1949. He was born circa 1947 in Hong Kong.
19. Okay, it was off by 100 years.
Yeah, but he actually is buried in he was an employee of the Royal Navy, as you said. He is resting at the PDSA Pet Cemetery in Ilford, Essex, England, and he even has an epitaph on his grave. It says, "In memory of Simon, served on the HMS Amethyst, May 1948 to November 1949, awarded the Dickin Medal, August of 1949, died the 28th of November 1949. Throughout the Yangtze incident, his behavior was of the highest order." Good for Simon.
He protected the food.
I mean, it's crazy to think about it, though, right? Like, if that cat, if there's not, then somebody actually has to try and keep vermin away from food when you don't have very much of it.
Right. It's one of the things that, like, even on pirate ships, I was watching a different documentary or educational video today, and they were talking about how we usually associate like exotic birds and parrots with pirates, but one of the animals that we don't associate as much as we should is that many ships kept cats because they got rid of mice and rats, which is a constant problem wherever there's food and people, there's rats. So you need the cat to kill the rats because apparently they're more portable than a terrier.
Yes. Much so.
That's a great Dr. Seuss book that was never written. The Terrier on the Aircraft Carrier.
Yeah, Although he would have done it. He merged war all the time. So, yeah, well, what got me thinking about was, right, because like because I called you or I texted you, I think, when I was in London, and I was like, holy crap, like this is a great idea. I think I texted Barker like 5 different ideas from just that bus tour alone of like different places and stuff like that. But what I really enjoyed, right, was like, because my mind jumps to elephants, right? Like whenever I think of war, like, or horses, like horses pretty common, but like when I'm thinking more like exotic, I think of like elephants, like, and this is where I suck at ancient world, but Hannibal is the one with the elephants, right? Okay, cool.
Tried to
So,
take them over the Alps. They didn't do very well. And then the Romans went down to Carthage. And I actually told this story the other day in class.
oh, okay.
So shout out to my AP World kids, second period, all 37 of those lovely children that are crammed in my room at once.
Love that.
But the Carthaginians, I guess, were going to try and run over the Romans with elephants, which I have to stop myself. I love to call them umlafants in the way of J.R. Tolkien. But what the Romans did is they simply made alleys in the army, and the elephants, when given the choice to run over people or go down an alley, will go down the alley and not step on people.
Yeah, they don't
Which
want to
point I tell the students that the Romans proceeded to stab the elephants and kill them as they went by.
Yeah.
And then they get very, very sad.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is only numbers for British animals.
Correct. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like we haven't even dove
unthought of like costs of war really is what does it do to animals, and like I went down a rabbit hole on this one a little bit too, and in World War II
is the definition of rabbit holes, so you just keep going.
Rabbit holes is what we do.
It really is.
The Russians in World War II tried to train dogs to plant mines under tanks. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems was, I think the Russian tanks ran on diesel, mm-hmm. and the German tanks ran on gasoline. So they trained them with Russian tanks with the smell of diesel. And so the dogs associated their job as going under diesel tanks. And they were supposed to like leave the bomb and come back.
Yep.
And that didn't work so great. First problem is they planted them under the Russian tanks because that's what they trained to do, put them under the diesel tanks.
Yep.
Boom. Hoisted by your own petard. Then they said, we're just going to put bombs on the dogs, and they're essentially kamikaze dogs. They're not coming back.
Yep.
And some of the dogs would get scared and then run back into the Russian trenches.
And blow them up. Yep.
Blow up. So again, the Russians hoisted by their own petards.
Hard.
Some people would say, karma. Maybe you shouldn't murder dogs to try and murder people.
Yep. Valid. The one that's always got me, and it's a side note, and I'm not sure 100% on like the use of war. I know post-war that one of the things that they actually use rats to try and clear minefields and identify mines, because the rats are not heavy enough to trip the mine, right? But they're smart enough, and they can be trained to mark where a mine is so that it can be dug up and this is in. Okay, so to full disclosure, I saw this on The Amazing Race, and this was actually a thing, like one of the roadblocks they had to do. They had to get a rat, and it wasn't real minefield, but it was like going and marking, training mines and stuff like that. And they had to lead their rat like not through the minefield, but they had to like kind of control it so it would mark that. But it's very interesting, right? And I know that like people have tried with dolphins, like for setting on mines on ships or identifying submarines and stuff like that.
Dolphins and seals, I believe.
Oh, seals too.
Yeah, and not like the Navy SEAls, like the but like the actual like
arf.
mammalian seals.
Well, technically, Navy SEAls are also mammalia, but that's the Thank you. I'll be done.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just one of those things that we don't think about as much anymore about the use of animals in warfare because we've mechanized so much, and it's almost like one of those old reliable systems. Like we didn't really talk about this, but pigeons are used as message couriers.
Correct.
Right. You train pigeons to fly back and from, and there's actually people that recreationally race pigeons, I believe.
Oh. Did not know
Like you
that.
actually can go and like you raise them. Yeah, my mom has a friend who does it.
Well, there
Shout
you
out
go.
to Gary. But you can raise pigeons and then you can take them and then you have them try and fly from a certain location like back and then you time them or something or other. And there's a certain amount of attrition even that happens there.
I bet.
So
Do they when they fly that though? Like, because from what I understand, carrier pigeons were like they were called homing pigeons, and so you would take them like into the field, and then they would fly home. But I don't think there was ever a return of that. Am I wrong?
yeah, I think it was yeah, it seems like it was mostly one directional post.
At One Direction.
Um, Sorry, it makes me think of Game of Thrones where they have all the ravens and they don't use pigeons in Game of Thrones. Obviously, this is a fantasy world.
Yeah,
Dragons. But
dragons.
they
Chargers.
use crow or they send a raven. And I'm just thinking about if they're homing ravens and they're not that smart, you have to keep your ravens sorted. Like so you make sure you don't send your raven to the wrong if it only goes to one spot.
Yeah.
Like, but then how do you get it back? Is there some dude just like out there like trucking pigeons around and like trucking around these pigeons from like, like
Well, and
Birmingham to Brussels?
I don't know. Like it'd be that's where I'm curious because there's no way like it would seem like a very inaccurate system, right? Like if I sent a pigeon and like in World War I, yes, like less mobile, likely they could find their way back to where you're maybe 20 yards in front of you a week later, or 20 yards back. Um, but like World War II, I don't think that's very doable in
I
terms of
also wonder if it's more espionage related than it is like military, like mass military movement and
yeah.
military intelligence. It could be more espionage related.
Right,
Um,
'cause it's more discreet. A pigeon flying away is more discreet than anything like that. So
yeah,
but then you have to carry the pigeon around with you.
just a guy with a pigeon.
Don't worry about me. That's how they identified all the spies. Just people with pigeons on their shoulders.
Many
Oh,
magicians died.
yeah. Yeah, to bring us this news. For those of you who didn't know, Kelsey Ramsey, just paying attention to you. What movie was that from? We'll give you 5 seconds. Marker.
Well, that was a play on. Many Bothans died to bring these Death Star plans to the rebels,
Got it.
which is a Star Wars quote. You're welcome, child.
Yep.
Who's not a child anymore, but we
Not a
helped
child.
you
Definitely not a
touch
child.
your oh man, what is that? Archetypes and the hero's journey. Talking about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. So
So
she is now Luke Skywalker and Frodo.
at the same time.
Anyway, yeah, this was an interesting subject, and I really kind of got into it. And I was thinking about it, like we never really think about how the animals are treated, and then like um, we were talking about World War I in class the other day, and one of the kids goes, "Well, what did some of that stuff turn into fertilizer?" And he was trying to ask in a really like polite way about like
Yeah, dead
death.
bodies.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like not everybody's accounted for. There's and like when you think about it, like a horse or a donkey is a much bigger animal than a human.
Yeah.
And just the amount, like I think of the movie War Horse,
Right. Yeah.
where you have the scene where people on horseback are committing like a Napoleonic like flanking maneuver, in a forward charge, and they're on their horses, and then there's just machine guns,
Yeah.
and just trying to explain like to students the idea that like tactics changed and like the material didn't. We didn't make gas masks for horses either. I don't believe.
Nope, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, there are I don't know the quality's not the right word. I don't know how well they worked, I guess, in terms of it, but there are a couple pictures when I was going through stuff that show horses with gas masks. And it's basically it looks like almost like a feed bag on their face. But nothing for their eyes, which is like that kind of throws me off a little bit, right? I don't know how you would like maybe I don't know. But like they at least had something like over their nose and mouth for like gas attacks.
But
So
that assumes that the human puts their protection on first.
Yeah.
their PPE before they go help the horses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a triage situation, like on an airliner when right,
Yeah.
put yours on first, then go help other people.
Right.
So like, yeah, we often don't think about that.
Well, the other
Many of
question
them
too
are,
you'd have for that one though is like how many horses are in the trenches because the trenches themselves are not that wide, right? So like what do you hold like are you holding horses in the trenches because that doesn't seem very feasible. So
yeah, but the wind blows.
I mean it does. I'm not like it I'm not saying it never happened, but I'm saying like in terms of holding horses there, probably.
Well, I mean, the Animal and War Memorial lists 8 million horses. I mean,
Right.
obviously,
Somebody, yeah, they died somehow. Yeah.
so that's a lot of glue. Um,
Darker. Dark.
but shoot, I was thinking about this. A lot of the more recent Dickin Award winners or Dickin Medal winners tend to be dogs.
Yeah.
So like you think about military dogs there. So it's a lot of German Shepherds or
Malinois.
Malinois,
Yeah.
right?
Belgian Malinois. Malinois.
The ones that they train to be police dogs because those are just the ones that often like serve in a
Yeah.
military and police capacity. Um, yeah, I thought it was a neat topic to kind of look at and kind of delve into and look at it. Another offshoot that I ran into was a lady named Dorothy Brooke, who in 1934, it still operates today. It started with what was called the Brooke Action, I believe, and it's the Brooke like hospital, I guess. It just says Brooke on their website. It's Brooke.
Okay.
And it was opened in 1934. And her mission was after World War One, obviously, but before World War Two. Her concern was what happens to all of the veteran horses
Yeah.
and mules. And so she opened up in, of all places, like she was living in Egypt, so in Cairo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so like it still operates today, and it's in a way it's kind of like a traveling veterinary service for working horses
Oh,
and pack animals
cool.
who often like are still doing hard labor intensive, right? The same kind of work that they would have been doing back in these wars, and providing medical service to animals across the world that would know like kind of an international animal Red Cross or
Yeah.
horses Red Cross, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of another interesting offshoot that happened is like we have all these horses, we breed horses because there's demand for war, but just like, what do you do with a general when he's done being a general?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I mean, any of that, like, what do you do with, like, 8 million horses died? How many horses survived? Probably more than 8 million, like, are used. So you're talking, what are you gonna do with all these horses? So that's crazy. It's cool how some of these things like in one of the things like we made the show for was to encourage people to go out and like look at some of this lesser known stuff, or I guess that's what it's evolved into since our lockdown days of trying to teach. Um, and so yeah, it's very interesting to see like the dynamic that plays out um, with that. So, but yeah. Mark, anything?
um, yeah, I mean, it's a really like, and I guess the thing that really like I find interesting about this whole experience is that we never run out of ideas.
Nope.
Uh, but
We
if
have a
you
list.
guys, I'm gonna
A
turn this
list.
into, huh?
We have a list of
Yeah, we have a
ideas.
list. We keep a list, and some stuff stays on the list for a while. Some stuff comes off the list. Some stuff comes in. Um, and then there's, to be honest, we were going to try and record this episode. What was it like 2.5, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I
It
think it
might
was
have been like a
more than
month ago. It probably had to be like a
I
month
mean,
ago.
our last episode was 2 months ago.
I think we tried a month ago,
Yep.
and it was the first
And
time that we had talked to each other
oh,
since
that's right. Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah,
And we I'm going to tattle on us.
yeah. We can. We tried to
We
record
don't.
it.
Nobody's paying us. We don't have enough followers. We appreciate the tens of you that listen,
Tens of you.
but And there's an unpaid promotion for
Yeah.
Eye Clothing, which is a RA Long alumni clothing brand based here in
No,
Longview.
totally worth it.
Shout out to Robert, who runs this company. But man, I lost my train of thought. I give the unsolicited promo. We recorded. We sat on Skype.
We didn't record. We sat on Skype.
3 hours and recorded no episode.
We just got to talk to each other, which is the whole reason like this show started and everything like that. Because kids told us they loved hearing us talk to each other, but we love talking to each other. We're best friends. You know what I mean? Like having these conversations are huge. But yeah, I remember we talked until about midnight, I think. And then I walked into my bedroom and my wife wakes up when I walked in there and she just goes, "How'd it go?" And I was like, "We didn't record a thing." I said, "We just got to talk to each other and we just got to just catch up on life." And I mean, like, it's right now, you guys are watching this hopefully, during the day, not in class or anything like that, but it's 11:15 at night, and Bark and I talked for like 2 hours. Yeah, we're only 27 minutes into this episode. We talked for like 2 hours before this. So that's why we haven't been able to produce very much.
And I mean, like, I don't know. And some of it's like we share, like I talk to we talk about teacher stuff. I mean, we talk about life, sports, and then we share ideas. Like we both teach it. If you don't care about our lives, you can turn off now. But we both teach it. We both teach at schools that have the AVID program. We do AVID kind of differently.
Yep.
I just kind of like tell people it's kind of like Catholics and Protestants. It's the same basic religion. It's the same basic stuff. We just kind of go about it with a little bit of different pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
So we share stuff. I mean, that's what great people do. We share information and we, try and build bigger and better things.
Love it. Oh, all right, guys. Well, it's been awesome getting back into it. We're actually going to take next week off, and I know what that sounds like. I just want everyone to know we're taking next week off. I have a trip with my wife down to Joshua Tree, so we're going to be down there leaving Wednesday night, Thursday morning, so it's just not going to work. But we will be back for what will be conference week for me. Just be another week for Mr. Barker, right before spring break. And I'm going to throw up a poll of a couple ideas that we've had and just see who wants to participate, who wants to vote, and we'll roll. So, Bark, anything else?
We'll see if our viewer base does better than the American population in an off election year.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. All right. Until next time, I'm the Turn.
I'm the Bark.
We're going to be here a long time. Wow, I had a brain fart there. So have a good night, everybody. I got it. I got it. Have a good night.
Be safe.
And be well.